Welcome to the Elusive Truth with Rich and Larry. So here we are, one day after President's Day. It's nice to have a real president back in the office again. But apparently, we still have a lot of Democrats and a lot of people with TDS. The Europeans really don't like what's going on. So, get things started. We got Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, taking some questions, and here, Fox News Live. Have a listen.
Number of legal battles, most of which are coming from Democrats up in arms about Doge decluttering the federal government. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will join us, as promised, to react to the pushback against Doge. But first, senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy's live on the North Lawn. Peter, how much have taxpayers saved because of all this work on the part of Doge?
So far, in the neighborhood of $50 billion, Sandra, and officials here are claiming that things are about to get much bigger if they can make some major changes, because they are saying that the first look at the Treasury Department has revealed that $4.7 trillion worth of payments at Treasury went out the door without a Treasury account symbol, which is similar to a billing code. And that means that $4.7 trillion is basically untraceable.
I knew things were going to get worse, but $4 trillion? It's getting crazy, folks.
You're looking at somehow some of these bureaucrats from D.C. that have never left, but then make hundreds of thousands of dollars and are somehow worth tens of millions of dollars, close to $100 million in certain circumstances. Do we believe that there's a chance that they could be funneling these to NGOs with interest? Yes, we know that happens.
Elon Musk posted about allegations of Social Security fraud. My rough estimate is that it's 80% lack of competence / caring and 20% fraud, but that's still a lot of fraud. There are Democrats, though, countering the fraud is actually by billionaires at the White House trying to help billionaire friends.
Corruption's up. Chaos is up, and yes, prices are up for Americans. And that's why we are standing up against this effort to basically put their tax cuts for billionaires on the backs of working people, whether it's Social Security or whether it is prescription drugs or whether it is housing or child care.
I'm so appalled at the arrogance of these Democrats, thinking that this is all fine and dandy. We have no reason to be looking into this. Doge and Musk have to go because of their craziness. You know they're taking the money. They've been stealing it from us for years and years.
The acting head of the Social Security Administration is leaving after a disagreement with Doge engineers about access to sensitive taxpayer information. She had been the acting SSA administrator since January 21st, one day into Trump's term. Sandra.
All right, Peter Doocy live at the White House for us. Peter, thank you. John.
All right, for more on Doge's work so far, let's bring in Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary. Caroline, great to spend the afternoon with you. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, John. Great to see you.
So the Democrats, as we know, have got their hair on fire complaining about Doge and cost cutting. But if we go back in history, Barack Obama announced something very similar back in 2011. And then if you go all the way back to 1993, remember when Al Gore and Bill Clinton said this.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
The Reinventing Government, or RIGO, report aims to save $108 billion over 5 years through eliminating scores of wasteful programs and regulations. Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
I don't remember Democrats complaining about that, and they wanted to cut twice the number of federal jobs that President Trump does.
That's exactly right, John. If you listen to those words, those are from Democrat Party leaders who are allegedly still beloved by Democrat voters today. And they were promising the American people the very same things that President Trump promised the American people, won the election on, and now is actually delivering on. That's the only difference between what President Trump is doing and what these Democrats have promised the American people for decades. He's actually following through on the promise to cut federal government waste, fraud, and abuse. abuse. And this is the first president to actually do such a thing, and the Democrats are up in arms about it. But our country is going bankrupt, and President Trump is not going to sit back and allow it to happen.
Caroline, can I ask you for a clarification? Sandra here, by the way, and thanks for coming back on with us. It seems there's being a lot made of what Elon Musk's role is actually at Doge. The president has introduced him as the head of Doge multiple times in interviews, yet there's this affidavit that we've been able to get our hands on here that the press has as well. That it contradicts the White House claim that he's the head of Doge. This affidavit actually says he doesn't work for Doge at all. Reading directly from it, it says Musk is not an employee of the U.S. Doge Service or the U.S. Doge Service Temporary Organization. That's according to the director of the White House's Office of Administration. So what is his role at Doge?
Sure, I'm happy to clarify.
Can you see how the media is already trying to twist this? They want to know what actually is Elon Musk's title. Why is he doing this? What's going on? And what I'm going to do is, before I let you hear Caroline Levitt answer that, I'm going to play you a section. Same question was asked to President Trump.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a Doge employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
well, Elon
what his
Musk,
exact role is there?
Yeah. Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things I just said. Just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right?
So that's how President Trump described Elon's Musk role. So back to Caroline Levitt.
Sure, I'm happy to clarify. Elon Musk is a special government employee here at the White House, serving at the direction of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Elon Musk has been tasked with overseeing Doge on behalf of the President. And Doge employees, Doge folks, have been onboarding at respective agencies across our federal bureaucracy as political appointees, just like any other political appointee gets on board with the new administration, with the changing of hands, and those individuals are helping the secretaries at all of our agencies that have been nominated and confirmed by President Trump in the United States Senate to cut waste, fraud, and abuse at these respective agencies. So that's the way Doge has been set up, and that's the way it will continue to operate.
All right. Well, let's come back to the plane crash in Toronto that happened yesterday, and the fact that Democrats seem to be pointing the finger of blame at the president. I'm not quite sure how you make that connection when the crash occurred in a different country. But here's what Chuck Schumer said. He said, quote, "To those asking whether it matters that the plane's destination was in Canada, the flight took off from Minneapolis. The FAA was still responsible for inspecting the aviation equipment, and Trump just let go of FAA safety specialists. We have no idea what caused this crash. We have some video of it coming in for a hard landing, but we don't know if it was a failure of equipment or if it was weather, if it was pilot error, or if it was something else. And yet you get the minority leader in the Senate immediately pointing fingers at the president. Your response?
It's incredibly irresponsible for Chuck Schumer to say such a thing when the investigation is still underway. And as you rightfully pointed out, John, this crash unfortunately took place in Canadian airspace with Canadian air traffic controllers overseeing it. And the facts about the FAA are that no air traffic controllers have been let go by Secretary Duffy or this new administration. In fact, Secretary Duffy has put great emphasis on hiring the best and the brightest air traffic controllers who want to be part of the FAA, and President Trump signed a very strong executive order to ensure that the FAA and all federal government agencies are focused on merit and skill-based hiring. We want the best and the brightest, the most competent individuals in positions, especially of public safety at the FAA, the Department of Transportation, and all departments across this federal government, so we can best serve the American people. So while Secretary Buttigieg and the Biden administration sat on their hands when it came to aviation safety for for 4 years, this administration is taking it seriously and is actively recruiting the best and the brightest to join this very important field.
Caroline, we know that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has been having some critical meetings overseas, Saudi Arabia. We've got Steve Witkoff joining him as well, Mike Waltz. What can you tell us is coming from that? He seems to be putting out some optimism that things may be getting closer to an actual deal being made.
I'm so glad you asked, Sandra, because this is a truly monumental step towards peace in the Russia-Ukraine war. At the direction of President Trump, Secretary Rubio, a special envoy Steve Witkoff, and our national security advisor Mike Waltz spoke to the Russians today and made significant steps towards peace. This is the first step of many. And I'd like to point out that our administration, including President Trump himself, has been in direct correspondence with the Ukrainians as well, including President Zelensky. President Trump also talked to our European allies yesterday. He had a phone call with France's President Emmanuel Macron. Next week, the Prime Minister of the UK will be here at the White House. And so we're ensuring that all parties are heard. But you have to speak to both sides of the war in order to truly negotiate a deal and problem solve. And this is a significant first step towards peace. Again, when the previous administration had no negotiations, no discussions, really no diplomacy in this effort, President Trump and his team are taking significant steps with just being here for 4 weeks.
I want to ask you, if I could, Caroline, about New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is the subject of a meeting today that Governor Kathy Hochul is having, which a lot of people are reading as whether or not she should remove him from office. A federal judge has just asked the Department of Justice to come into court and explain why the charges against him were dropped. Democrats are suggesting there was a quid pro quo involved here, that in exchange for cooperation on immigration, the DOJ would drop the charges against Eric Adams. He has denied that. What do you say?
Well, I defer you to the Department of Justice for specifics on this case and the ongoing case and the matters against Mayor Eric Adams. What I do know is that Eric Adams has been incredibly courageous in speaking out against his own party when many Democrats refused to do so, about the terrible border invasion of illegal immigrants that the previous administration allowed to happen, which we know had a grave impact on New York City, on the education system, the transportation system, on taxpayer dollars in that city that were going to housing illegal migrants in hotels. Thankfully, all of that is coming to an end thanks to the strong leadership of President Trump. And New York will only be a sanctuary place for law-abiding American citizens and New Yorkers under this administration. And Mayor Adams has put out a helping hand to try to help the federal government in ending the border invasion. He was not heard by the last administration, but he is being heard by this administration because President Trump and his team will work with anyone to do what's best for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens.
Well, Caroline, we've been carrying your press briefings live here on America Reports. We look forward to the next one. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
I'm really impressed on how the American public has been giving information lately. Ever since President Trump has taken office, he's constantly been there talking to reporters, letting us know his agenda, what he's doing, what's going on in the world. We missed that quite a bit from the Biden administration. Again, you can hear the Democrats blaming Trump for that airplane that crashed in Canada. Yep, good old Trump, because he's, slashing people left and right. Unbelievable. Wait till you hear all the crazy stuff coming out. We are just scratching the surface. And with that, we're going to go to President Trump brings the receipts, reads off shocking lists of taxpayer fraud in the government. This is just the latest from Doge team about Social Security Administration.
But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay. Maybe that's possible. 90 to 99, maybe it's possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people. I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But over 120, from 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129. 3,472,000 people. Wow. You know, that can't possibly be, because the record is like, I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in. People from 130 years old to 139-year-old. 3,936,000. Wow. I wonder if people are getting paid with all this. I mean, are these checks? And that's what we're checking right now. People from 140 years old to 149 years old, 3,542,000, 140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going, because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old, 1,345,000. These are in the, by the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well. They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people and they love the country. It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old people. 170 to 179,000, 6,087. But now, let's go into the real numbers. From 200 to 209 years old, 879 people. From 210 years old, I haven't met any of them. And if I did, I would bless them. I would worship the ground they walk on. 210 to 219 years, 866. From 220 years old to 229 years old, 1,039. And then you have two people from 240 years old to 249 years old, one person. And there's one person that's 360 years old. That's just that. And then, where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for a consultant on the environment. It's called Environmental, Social, and Governance. Investments in Africa and mobilize private sector resources. $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million for ESG. $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice, $25 million to go into Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges. I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions. $10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. In other words, let's teach them something about enterprise. What about our people? Can we teach them about enterprise? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center, which is a very liberal group of people. Wonder how much of that money came back to the people that approved it. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova. and $21 million for voter turnout in India. Well, why are we giving $21 million to India? They got a lot of money. They're one of the highest taxing countries in the world in terms of us. We can hardly get in there because their tariffs are so high. I have a lot of respect for India. I have a lot of respect for the prime minister. He just left, as you know, 2 days ago. But we're giving $21 million for voter turnout. It's voter turnout in India. What about, like, voter turnout here? Oh, we've done that, I guess. We did $500 million, didn't we? It's called the lockboxes. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. They're doing a lot better than we do in the schools, aren't they? $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities in Kosovo and Eskali and in Egypt. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I could, by the way, I could read this all day long. I could go on all day long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old.
It certainly appears that there's no checks and balances. There's nobody watching the check writing. It's going to get worse. Again, more of this gaslighting, more of the propaganda. And my goodness, I had no idea Europe didn't like America that much, especially Germany. Germany, you guys are in the world are hurt. You have no liberties and no freedoms whatsoever. Germany got so scared of repeating their history that they're repeating their history right now. European leaders in tears after J.D. Vance speech. I was amazed at how bad Germany has gotten. No freedom whatsoever, and you're whatever they are that are watching your internet activities, and oh my goodness, wow, world is gone, clown world. Anyway, the Cartier family, European leaders in tears after J.D. Vance speech. Have a listen.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
Let's take it, fine.
He's all choked up over Zelensky and what a wonderful deal he's got going on for himself. Yeah, that guy's got, these Germans, they got some waking up to do. They've been hoodwinked, just like the rest of the world. Yeah, the world's been brainwashed that Putin wants to take over everybody. That's what they've been preaching to us past 4 years. Go Ukraine. Unbelievable mess. Hope we get out of that real soon. That's what Trump wants. That's what President Trump's going to get. That's what the United States is going to get.
Rick, briefly expand on that, because I know you spend a lot of time in Europe and you know this. Are some of these countries in the midst of the perfect storm to continue pushing to the right? What do you see?
Look, the immigration issue is one that the far right has carefully exploited in Europe, and I will tell you, the flood of immigration into Europe in the post Middle East moment has led to opportunities for the far right they would not have had under other circumstances. It is an issue that works very effectively with working class voters, just as it does in the U.S. I think that we're in a very dangerous moment, and if you were to ask me how it ends, unfortunately, I think it ends in blood and terror. I don't mean to be so down about it, but this is not a great situation that we're in right now.
Quickly, Rick, what do you mean by that? Blood and terror.
That's over there.
I think we're at a point right now where Donald Trump is going to sell Ukraine down the river to Putin, and it's not going to stop. He'll go into Poland. He'll go into the Baltics. He'll go into Germany. This is a green light for terror and horror in Europe that we haven't seen since World War II. Abandoning NATO, which was the glue that held Europe together for decades and provided global security for decades. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth took it this weekend. They tore it up and spat on it on the floor in front of their supposed allies, all to please Vladimir Putin back in Moscow. This is going to end, and it will not end well.
Why are they platforming this person?
That dude is inciting violence.
I see him on X all the time bitching about Trump stuff.
Didn't we watch the same speech that JD told him?
Yeah,
he just said freedom of speech.
It's interesting that he said that we shat on NATO and ripped it up. If you look at the contributions of tax dollars and money yearly to NATO, the U.S. spends more than every other single NATO country.
And they're right there.
Every other NATO country combined probably spends less than the U.S. The U.S. is NATO. If the U.S. says something about NATO, it needs to be acted on. It needs to be heard. It needs to be moved upon, because there is no NATO without the United States of America. That's bottom line. And the fact that Ukraine is trying to join NATO is the reason why they're at war now. So all they have to do is not join and stop fighting. Why is that so bad?
The level of fear mongering I just heard from this guy is absolutely absurd. He thinks Putin is going to go into Poland, into Germany. Are you kidding me, buddy?
What he's doing is basically saying that Russia is gonna do what Hitler and them attempted to do. Yeah, it's basically what he's trying to do. They're gonna try to take over everything.
Like the way he said the countries and everything.
Why trying to smear Trump like this his fault, kind of?
Man, he's trying to feed into that rhetoric,
because
that image.
Trump is not going for that bullshit. You know he's right. So.
I mean, if a country like this acted, I think of all times now with a leader like Trump, we should know that we're gonna stand on that.
Well,
it's gonna be responded.
You know, European countries won't even let their own citizens speak.
Nah, actually, they're getting arrested.
So, like, why defend?
Can't even pray. Can't even pray in your own home.
Why are they defending this?
Because they're actually the elitists, and they're the ones that's actually controlling everything.
That's what it look like.
And they thrive off of chaos. So the more chaos they can cause, people are gonna do what? Gonna go and watch the news. More views for them.
Yeah, that's why people getting blocked for watching that Tucker and Putin interview. They didn't want y'all to know nothing.
It's illegal to display Nazi symbolism, a swastika, or deny the Holocaust. That's clear. Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes.
Wow. And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you're in the internet, if I insult you or a politician...
That sticks around forever.
Yeah.
The prosecutors explain German law also prohibits the spread of malicious gossip, violent threats, and fake quotes.
If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well, because the reader can't distinguish whether you just invented this or just reposted it. That's the same for us.
The punishment for breaking hate speech laws can include jail time for repeat offenders. But in most cases, a judge levies a stiff fine and sometimes keeps their devices.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked. It's a kind of punishment if you lose your smartphone. It's even worse than the fine you have to pay.
Because your whole life is typically on your phone now.
Yeah, I'm scared.
I'm gonna keep it 100, bro.
This is how it started over there. It started with censorship.
If I ever hear anybody in America say you oppressed, that's real life oppression.
Who seriously
It's about censoring the American people.
This is real life oppression. You can't preach, you can't pray, you can't retweet,
You can't even roast.
What the fuck?
You cannot roast.
That's some weak ass shit.
No roasting.
I'm kind of scared though, for real though. Like Trump might actually save this from
so much crazy
I ain't
shit.
gonna lie, bro, I don't even want to travel over there.
Yeah, it's over with.
Because what if you traveling over there and you tweet and you call somebody old head ass?
So are they going to arrest?
You're going to jail.
Are they arresting rappers over there? Because
they ain't got no rappers.
They don't got no rappers.
But I'm just
They
ain't got some in Europe. So Central C, where he considered a side of.
He's in the UK.
They got a different system.
Okay,
Yeah.
But Germany falls under the EU. So is this the whole EU that's doing this?
I think the EU is definitely pretty liberal.
Oh, they're so
pretty
liberal.
crazy.
People are sick of the EU.
So you telling me F him? I'm going to that bitch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and
bro.
they taking your phone, and they might give you a paddle on the ass.
That's
Fat boy.
That's really you really don't have no freedom, bro.
You don't have no
Hell no.
freedom.
That
They
is
take
no
your phone. They put you in jail.
They took
That's
your
like middle
phone.
school. You get caught texting in middle school. They take your phone. Your mama got to come get you.
Let a soccer player miss a goal. Oh boy.
So you hold on.
You're going.
They take
to
your
jail.
phone. They take your guns.
They don't have
and you
guns.
can't. That's what I'm saying. You can't have it from the jump. And you can't pray in your own house. Don't ever talk shit about America ever again, man.
Nah, for real, bro.
I swear
That's
to God.
scary. That is scary.
He was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide.
No, did she just say
It's free.
like
She said free speech is why the Nazis did what they did.
Oh no, it was censorship. It's the opposite. It was censorship. Is why the Nazis did what they did.
He was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it.
Right before our eyes, we hear the media changing history, letting us know that freedom of speech was on the side of the Germans when they took over and decided to do World War I. It was the lack of freedom of speech and the censorship that started all this. And again, a lot of these young people have no clue because this is what they've been teaching in school lately. Oh, my goodness. There's a lot to learn, and that's why we have to do our research diligently because there's too much false information. I am thankful that Secretary of State Mark Rubio, he knows, he's educated.
And you know that the censorship
I have to disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
You say to Donald Trump, Minister Sikorski. We have more chairs. We have more chairs.
I would tell him three things. Number one, Joe Biden was your successor and predecessor, but he planted the flag of the United States in downtown Kiev and declared on behalf of the United States that the US will be with Ukraine for as long as it takes until Ukraine secures its independence. Therefore, the credibility of the United States depends on how this war ends. Not just the Trump administration, the United States itself. I would secondly tell him that if you allow Putin to vassalize Ukraine, that will send a message to China that you can recover what you regard as a renegade province. And that would have direct consequences for U.S. grand strategy, for the U.S. system of alliances, and possibly for the future of Taiwan. And I would thirdly tell him that we Europeans control the Nobel Peace Prize. If you want to earn it, the peace has to be fair.
Very clear.
I hate that. I'll just keep it 100. For all Europeans watching in America, we do not think y'all are cool. We don't think about y'all, none of that. But they seem to always talk about Americans, this and that, this and that. Y'all think y'all so special.
It's still American culture.
Every
we're better.
country hates America.
America is better than every country.
Exactly.
Everybody needs us.
I don't know why everybody hates on America when they know damn well
they can't survive.
They want to live here.
It's not even that they want to live here. They can't survive in their country without us.
Like America is the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful country on the planet for a reason.
If anything, this will show you that there is hope within our young community. The Cartier family. Check them out on YouTube. They really are. A lot of common sense, and they know what's going on. They've been around the block. Again, it's not like The View. It's not this Democratic wackos that are scrambling or in fear of their lives because they know they've done wrong and they got their hand caught in a cookie jar. It's all coming out in the wash. It gets crazier every day. Just like President Trump said, winning, going to be tired of winning. And wow, he is at full speed ahead. I can only imagine the craziness that we're about to embark on here. So, with that, I want to thank you for listening to The Elusive Truth with Rich and Larry. Larry will be on their next podcast. I have talked to him, and he's doing well. And I want to thank you for coming down the rabbit hole with me. Keep looking for that elusive truth. Wow, take care of your family, your friends. That's all you got in this world. God loves you. We love you. And we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.